Hey, I'm Neil. Welcome to Petergy. This video is released to patrons on Patreon on November 16th. Self-sufficiency, the search continues for local and remote work. With any sources of news or information, I highly recommend and I encourage you to do your own research. I will include links below to all sources. On November 13th, this week's There You Go, we looked at coins to learn. If you're curious about crypto, check out this week's post. November 8th, man tried to lure a 10-year-old girl in Santan Valley. She fled after he did not know the code word. The story is a good reminder to everyone of having a plan and preparing for threats. A potentially disastrous situation was reverted by a code word. Do you have a plan? One of the world's greatest meteor showers, the Leonids, will return this weekend. On Saturday and Sunday, weather permitting, you can watch the sky fill up with up to 20 meteors per hour. As for time, Earth Sky says that between the hours of midnight and dawn is your best bet, with a focus on early morning hours of Saturday, November 17th or Sunday, November 18th. The south, east, and midwest regions of the countries have the best chances of getting a good show, meteorologists say. States like Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Nebraska, and as far west as Nevada are set to get best viewing sites. The Leonids represent a piece of meteoric history. They were the first major meteor shower recorded back in 1833. Noted by Walt Whitman in his journals, the meteor shower was to Lincoln a symbol of hope. But looking back of them in the heavens, Lincoln said, "I saw all the grand old constellations with which I was so well acquainted, fixed and true in their places. The world did not come to an end, nor will the Union now."
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. The great and Oz has spoken.
Came across this meme earlier this week, so I tried it myself, and sure enough, it was not doctored and shows how the definitions of words are even part of the war to control what we think. 14th, when I first read this article, my jaw was on the floor. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez thinks the Amazon headquarters in Queens is extremely concerning. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not excited about the company moving into the neighborhood. The community's response? Outrage, she continued. Amazon is a billion-dollar company. The idea that it will receive hundreds of millions of dollars in tax breaks at a time when our subway is crumbling and our communities need more investment, not less, is extremely concerning to the residents here. Housing displacement is a major concern of Ocasio-Cortez. She's a vocal advocate for affordable housing and says she fears that Amazon's decision to set up shop in Queens will hasten gentrification, increase housing prices, and displace current residents. Ocasio-Cortez argued that there are several factors that communities should think about before being lured into these kinds of partnerships with major corporations. Among them, a commitment to hiring within the existing community, the quality of work conditions, wages, benefits, and the ability for workers to bargain collectively. The congressman-elect stressed that the government officials need to keep the concerns of their constituents as the highest priorities. We need to focus on good health care, living wages, affordable rent. Corporations that offer none of these things should be met with skepticism, she wrote on Twitter. It's impossible to establish economic partnerships with real opportunities for working families instead of a race to the bottom competition. She's not alone in her concerns. Local officials, Queens City Councilman Jimmy Van Bramer and State Senator Michael Gianaris said, "We were not elected to serve as Amazon drone. This isn't just about one company or one headquarters. It's about cost of living, corporations paying their fair share, etc." she wrote on Twitter. "It's not about picking a fight either. I was elected to advocate for our community interests, and they've requested clearly to voice their concerns."
It's the end of the world as we know it.
November 10th, a leading Chinese military general has warned that a confrontation between the U.S. and Chinese warships in the South China Sea would be a disaster. This is amid fears that the event remains at a very high chance. At a press conference held in Washington, D.C., top U.S. officials urged their Chinese counterparts to halt militarization of the disputed South China Sea. In response, China fired off a fierce rebuke, bluntly telling the U.S. to stop sending ships and military aircraft close to the islands claimed by Beijing. The Chinese defense minister has issued a stern rebuke of the U.S. and warned that an accidental clash between the two countries could erupt into a global war. This comes just a day after the Chinese unveiled newly developed high-tech weapons, including supersonic missiles and stealth drones. World leaders warn against nationalism at World War I Remembrance ceremony. November 11th, Macron said, "Patriotism is the exact opposite of nationalism, and nationalism is a betrayal of patriotism." Macron was not alone. Angela Merkel warned that the lack of communication and unwillingness to compromise can have deadly consequences. November 13th, Home Depot signals U.S. housing demand slowing. Home Depot suggested on Tuesday that the pace of U.S. home sales was slowing and said impending trade tariffs could force it to raise prices on some products. After years of steady recovery from the U.S. housing market meltdown in 2008, there are signs that the housing demand is slowing as mortgage rates climb higher. November 13th, oil falls most since 2015 on fears of oversupply. U.S. oil prices sank deeper into a bear market on Tuesday, posting their steepest fall in 3 years and a record 12 consecutive days of declines, as fears of oversupply and weakened demand gripped the market. November 13th, the Irish Aviation Authority is investigating reports of bright lights and UFOs off the southwest coast of Ireland. The pilot flying from the Canadian city of Montreal to Heathrow said there was a very bright light and the object had come up along the left side of the aircraft before it rapidly veered to the north. He said there were multiple objects following the same trajectory and that they were very bright. The pilot said he saw 2 bright lights over the right, which climbed away at speed. One pilot said the speed was astronomical. It was like Mach 2, which is twice the speed of sound. November 15th, in Sweden, conscription and a leaflet on how to prepare for war just in case. Sweden has worked to gear up its defense against Russia by various means, including the reintroduction of conscription and bringing military preparedness back into the public mindset. For example, by circulating a pamphlet instructing the population what to do in case of a war. November 15th, U.S. military losing its competitive edge. The National Defense Strategy Commission was tasked by Congress to give an independent, nonpartisan review. The security and well-being of the United States are at greater risk than at any time in decades, the report asserts. American military superiority has eroded to a dangerous degree. The report goes on to say there are urgent challenges that must be addressed if the United States is to avoid lasting damage to its national security. The global role that the United States has played for many generations rests upon a foundation of unmatched military power, the report says. The report went on to say, today, however, our margin of superiority is profoundly diminished in key areas. November 12th, the city of Phoenix recently decided to spend $95,000 on a new piece of gear for the Phoenix police. Phoenix police told the public, city council, and press that it wanted the devices to help communicate with large crowds, such as mass protests. The first time U.S. citizens became accustomed to the sound in the States was during the 2009 G20 protests in Pittsburgh. The police used the device to try to disperse crowds, but due to how the device works, bystanders in the area ended up being affected. They were first used by American troops in Iraq in 2004. September 27th, the sun is entering one of the deepest solar minima of the space age. Sunspots have been absent from most of 2018, and the sun's ultraviolet output has sharply dropped. New research shows that the Earth's upper atmosphere is responding. We are seeing a cooling trend, says Martin Lisnak of NASA's Langley Research Center. High above the Earth's surface, near the edge of space, our atmosphere is losing heat energy. If the current trend continues, it could soon set a space-age record for cold. I am confused because the global warming climate change community was all over the solar maxima about it heating up the atmosphere and increasing ground temperatures. If you like what you see, please tell your friends. If you'd like to support these videos, become a patron on Patreon, or follow me on Patreon, or follow me on Steemit, or subscribe on DTube. Comments, shares, likes, upvotes, responses, and resteems are all always greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching, and good luck out there.